What if the person who understand you better than anyone else couldn't speak a single word? Not because they didn't want to, not because they had nothing to say, but because life had taught them that silence was safer. Today, we are talking about a romance that quietly became one of the most beloved books in contemporary romance. A book with hundreds of thousands of readers who all seem to agree to one thing: Archer Hale is unforgettable. Not because he's rich, not because he's dangerous, not because he's the typical brooding romance hero, but because his story remind us that sometimes the loudest cries for love are the one no one ever hears. This is Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. And if you have somehow managed to avoid spoilers all these years, no worries. You don't have to worry at all, to be very honest, because today's review is completely spoiler free. Because this is one of those stories that deserve to be experienced by yourself. So, hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. And if you're new here, I'm someone who spends way too much time reading romance books and watching documentaries, so you can decide whether they are worth your time and your emotional stability. And today's book is one I have been meaning to read for the longest time. It was always in my TBR list, and I was just not getting the time to read it. And I finally read it. And you have probably seen Archer's Voice recommended everywhere. Books that make you cry, best small town romance, the ultimate tortured hero. It's one of those books that never seem to disappear from recommendations list. So naturally, I had to find out whether it actually lives up to all the hype or not. And after turning the final page, I can finally understand why people are still talking about it years after it was first published. And before we talk about why this book works so well, let's start with the story. We meet Bree Prescott. At first glance, she seems like someone looking for a fresh start. She arrived in the tiny lake town of Pelion, hoping to leave her old life behind. But very quickly, you realize that she isn't someone chasing a new adventure. She is escaping. Without revealing too much, Bree has survived something unimaginably, traumatic kind of a stuff, that kind of event that changes the way you see the world. She is grieving, and more than anything, she wants peace. And Pelion seems to like the perfect place to disappear for a while. It's quiet, slow, the sort of town where everybody knows everybody. And unfortunately, that's also where the problem began or lies, because in a town where everyone knows everyone, everyone also thinks they know everything. And that's where Archer Hales comes in. Archer lives alone in an old house on the edge of town. Most people barely speaks to him. Some literally avoid him altogether. Others treat him like he's a mystery that was never worth solving. And over the years, rumors have completely replaced the truth. To some people, he is strange. To others, he is dangerous. Many assume he's mentally unstable simply because he couldn't speak. Nobody really asks why, and nobody takes the time to understand him. It's easier to whisper, it's easier to stare, it's easier to pretend he doesn't exist. And honestly, that might have been the part that hurt me the most, because Archer isn't invisible. People choose him not to see him. And when Bree meets Archer, something feels different almost immediately. Not because there's instant attraction, not because sparks are flying, because she's curious. Instead of judging him from a distance like everyone else, she simply wonders, who is this? And that simple question changes everything. As Bree slowly learns more about Archer, she discovers that his silence isn't a choice. It's a result of childhood strategies so devastating that it completely altered the course of his life. And without giving away any major plot twist or points, Archer has spent years living in almost complete isolation. He communicates through sign language, which nobody knew. He keeps to himself that he knows how to communicate, and little by little, he accepted the lonely life like everyone else has chosen for him until Brie. And now, let's talk about the real reason why people remember this book years after they have finished reading it. It's because of Archer. Because Archer Hale isn't written as a fantasy, he's written as a person. And in romance, we have, or we can say, we are used to heroes who are emotionally unavailable because they are arrogant, powerful, egoistic, or simply wanting for the right person to change them. Archer is different. His silence isn't there to make him mysterious. It's the result of years of, neglect, misunderstanding, and unimaginable loss that he went through. Life has taught him that keeping to himself is safer than risking another heartbreak. And that changes everything about how you experience his character. Every interaction matters to him, every smile feels significant. Even the smallest moment, like someone choosing to sit beside him or simply treating him like any other person, carry an emotional weight that surprised me. Because of Archer, those aren't ordinary moments when you read in the books. All the small moments, they are just become some really extraordinary one. And one of my favorite things about this book is that it never asks you to pity Archer. Instead, it asks you to understand him. There's a huge difference, like it doesn't reduce him to his trauma. It shows you his intelligence, his kindness, his quite sense of humor, which you will definitely see when you read the book, his determination, his curiosity. And little by little, the image which is created by the town begins to disappear, and you will left seeing Archer exactly the way Bree does. Not as someone broken, but as someone who is denied the chance to truly live. And honestly, watching that transformation happen was one of the most rewarding part of this book. And let's talk about Bree. She isn't written as Archer's savior. She is not there to rescue him. She is not the magical woman who chooses love suddenly fixes years of pain. Okay, like let's be very honest. She arrives carrying her own scars. She's grieving, she's anxious, she's trying to rebuild a life that was shattered long before she reached Billion. That shared understanding becomes the foundation of their relationship. Neither of them needs to explain what trauma feels like. They already know, and because of that there's an honesty between them that never feels forced. They are not falling in love because they are lonely. They are falling in love because they finally met someone who understand what surviving feels like. Uh, and that's a subtle difference, but it's what makes this romance feel so genuine and so beautiful. And like sharing my honest reaction is that one thing I literally thought before picking up this book was that, like, I really thought this book was that it might fell into the broken hero gets faked by love trope, and thank God it doesn't. Uh, I mean, I love that trope, but I don't know, for this book, I really thought that it shouldn't go in that trope, and it doesn't. Yes, Bree changes Archer's life, but Archer changes Bree's life too. Like, healing isn't one sided here, and which is good. It's mutual. Neither character competes the other. They create a space where both of them finally feel safe enough to begin healing. And I think that's an important distinction because the real healing doesn't happen overnight, it happens through trust, through patience, through consistency, through someone showing up again and again and again. And that's where what this relationship feels like. It's not dramatic, it's not rushed, it's built one quiet moment at a time. And you were definitely going to feel it when you read the book. And its core is that Archer Voice is a story about being seen, not looked at, seen. And we all know there is a difference, right? So most of his life, Archer has been surrounded by people who decided who he was without ever trying to know him. He judged before he speaks, pitied before anyone understands him, ignored simply because he's different. Like, maybe I can call him antisocial, maybe. And Brie becomes the first person in years to love beyond all of that. And I think that's why so many people connect with this story, because if we are being honest, most of us know how it feels like to be misunderstood, right? I mean, at some point of time in our life, we have definitely felt like we are being misunderstood by some people or someone, or, the whole stuff. Maybe not at the Archer's extent, but we have all experienced moment where we wish someone would look past our fears or mistakes or the versions of us the world assumes to be true. And this book takes that universal feeling and turns it into a love story. And talking about the theme is like the another theme that really stood out to me was healing. Not the kind that magically erases pain, the kind that teaches you how to carry it. The past isn't forgettable, the trauma doesn't disappear, but little by little, it stops defining every part of who these characters are. And I think it's much more honest portrayal of healing that we often see in romance. By the point I completely understood why Archer's Voice has become one of those books readers recommend over and over and over again. And it's isn't because the plot is revolutionary, it isn't because he consistently shocks you with all the twists and turns. It because it makes you care, like, deeply. You will definitely start to care about, the person that you love or someone that is very close to you. And it is about two people who simply want what most of us takes for granted, to be understood, to be loved or belong, to loved. And sometimes that's more than enough. And here's the question I was keep asking myself when I was reading this book is like, why Archer's Voice, right? Because romance is one of the fastest moving genres out there. Like, every day there's a different book out there, and a different author has been like famous among the book talk and everything. And yet Archer's Voice continues to be recommended year after year, reader after reader. And why is that? I think it's because this story isn't built around a trend. It's built around emotions that never really go out of style. The desire to be understood, the fear of being judged, the loneliness of feeling like no one truly knows you, the hope that maybe, just maybe, there's someone out there who will look past all the walls and see the person underneath, the skin. And those feelings aren't tied to one generation of readers. They are timeless. That's why everyone can pick up this book today, and more than a decade after it was first published, and still feel exactly what readers felt when it first came out. And I can totally understand why, because not every romance ages that well, and this one does. So now, do I think this book is perfect? um Not quite. There were a couple of moments where I had to suspend my disbelief, because I was quite like, moment I was like, what the hell? Like, what is that? But without getting into spoilers, I also felt one conflict in the later part of the story leaned a little more toward drama than realism, right? Like I didn't feel that that was necessary, and there were one or two side characters who feel more like plot devices than fully developed people. You will definitely gonna feel that those characters should have been more developed, or I don't know, like you will definitely gonna feel that there are some places where scenes could have been little bit more different. But here's the interesting part. None of those things affected my overall experience very much because of the emotional core of the story remained so strong. So, the thing is, when a book makes you genuinely care about its character, you're often willing to forgive few imperfections. And that's exactly what happened here. And the spice is really good, so you can definitely read the book for spice if you wanted. And coming to the point, like, who is this book for? You will probably love Archer's voice if you enjoy small town romance, slow burn relationships, emotionally wounded characters, hurt comfort dynamics, story entered centered surround healing after trauma, romance that focuses just as much on emotional intimacy as physical chemistry. So if your favorite romances are the one that stays with you long after you have finished reading it, this deserves a place on your reading list for sure. And talking about my final thoughts, after finishing it, I wouldn't recommend it as a romance. I don't think that would be the best way to describe it. I mean, yes, of course, it's a love story, but it's also a story about compassion, about choosing empathy over assumptions, about remembering that every person you meet is carrying a story you know nothing about, and sometimes the people who seem the quietest have the most to say. And maybe that's why this book has stayed with so many people for so many years, and I can definitely understand it now why it's such a hype book. So yeah, and it's just beautiful, guys. The journey is beautiful, the book is beautiful. So yeah, you can definitely give it a shot. And here's is my review about the book. So, have you read Archer's Voice? Have you read it? Then I would love to know what your thoughts about it. But let's keep the comments spoiler free so first time readers can actually enjoy the experience. So please keep it spoiler free. And if you haven't read it yet, I genuinely hope this review helped you to decide whether it's the right book for you or not. And if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit to that bell icon so you can definitely get notifications on my other videos which I'm going to download in the future. And definitely let me know which romance novel I should review next, because there are still so many books waiting to emotionally destroy us. And honestly, I can wait to do that. Until next time, happy reading and take care.